like your family costs that
We're gonna give everyone one more minute to come into our classroom, and then we'll go ahead and get started. But thank you all for coming in on this lovely Tuesday. If you just so happen to stumble in here, this is WB 1004.002 Zoning Fundamentals 2 with the Department of City Planning's Neighborhood Planning Unit, University. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Good evening, everyone. Again, welcome to WB 1004.002 Zoning Fundamentals 2. My name is Samantha Terry, and I am the program manager for the Neighborhood Planning Units. Neighborhood Planning Units area in the Department of City Planning. I am joined tonight by Daniel Vasquez, our program coordinator. Daniel, where are you?
Hello.
And our neighborhood engagement planner, Tony McNeil.
Good evening, everyone.
So we are very happy to have you all here. Our instructor for tonight's course is the Director of Zoning and Development, Ms. Kieta Holmes. I'm going to ask if you do not, if you want to stop right now and grab a notebook and a pen so you can take notes, because this is going to be a wonderful class with a lot of information about zoning and development within the city of Atlanta. We ask that everyone please be mindful and keep your mics muted throughout. We will have a question and answer component throughout this course. Uh-oh, my screen just disappeared. Okay. We will have a question and answer component throughout this course. No, my screen disappeared. You would think I would be a master at this point. On. Okay. So we ask that you keep your mics muted, use your reactions to clap or give a thumbs up. And if you want to ask a question or make a comment during, use the raise your hand gesture in the queue. All questions must be relevant to course content. We'll have someone on our staff monitoring the chat room for any questions that may come up while Ms. Holmes is actually doing her presentation. So this will now let me be great. I love technology, but not today. Without further ado, I would like to present to you the Director of Zoning and Development, Ms. Kieta Holmes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kieta Holmes, and I am the Director of the Office of Zoning and Development. If you've not met me before or haven't had the pleasure of meeting me, it's a pleasure to meet you all this evening. And I hope this course will be beneficial to you as well as to your neighbors when you share the information with them as well. And you will use it on any application that comes before your neighborhood association or your NPU. So without further ado, let's start the presentation. So zoning is the regulatory framework that dictates uses. It dictates where single family, two family, and multifamily can be located. Also where places of worship, schools, and daycares are located, where retail is located, and where other non-residential uses are located. We have what are called conventional districts that are based in Euclidean zoning, which is the very first iteration of zoning, which separated the uses entirely. You had only single family in one place, only industrial in another place, only commercial in another place. And as zoning evolved, then we got mixed uses, and we got mixed use districts where you would have commercial uses and residential uses together. And just last year, here in the city of Atlanta, we adopted an industrial mixed use category that allows industrial uses as well as residential uses together. The land use document, or the 2016 Comprehensive Development Plan, which we are currently is our adopted document, is the policy framework that determines use. So single family residential properties are zoned R1 through R4B and PDH. And their companion land use is low density residential, single family residential. So all properties that are single family residential have a single family residential land use. Then we have properties that are considered low density residential. Those are your two families, your triplexes, your quads, your small apartment buildings, the low density type of apartment buildings, no more than maybe 50 or so units would be considered low density residential. Those also in that category is townhomes, as well as multifamily multi-unit, which is the newest district, MRMU, which allows a minimum of 4 units and a maximum of 12 units. And then we have a land use category called mixed use. Mixed use would be those that were office institutional, because office institutional allows residential units to be included in those kinds of districts. We have live work, which are the ones where you can work downstairs, work upstairs, and then have an accompanying living unit associated with it. Then we have high density commercial districts, C1 through C5, starting at C1, which is low density commercial, or the neighborhood type commercial district, all the way up to C5. And C5 would be the older, higher density district that you would find along Peachtree Street downtown. And then we have MRC1 through MRC3, which now is the go-to district in the city, because it has all of the quality of life components associated with regard to streetscaping and supplemental zones and sidewalks and park benches and lighting, et cetera. That is a zoning category of MRC3. And so you see, for every zoning district, there is a accompanying and companion land use category associated with it. So the land use category talks about its intensity, the types of uses that are allowed in it, and then the regulations, or the zoning district, is the regulatory framework by which the property is developed. The Atlanta City Design was adopted into the city charter in 2017 as a part of the Department of City Planning's policy framework. The work of the update of the 2021 Comprehensive Development Plan will parallel the policy initiatives in Atlanta City Design with the Comprehensive Development Plan, and the current rewrite that we are also undertaking in the Department of City Planning will align the policy initiatives with the regulatory framework of the overall zoning rewrite, which will be taking place over the next 5 years. And so the information that I just have given to you would iterates here in what we have as a zoning map. So the yellow areas that you see on the map here are single family residential zoning districts and single family residential land use. The light color yellow is residential. What you see here is MRC2C and MRC1C, which is mixed residential commercial 2 and 1. These properties happen to be conditional, and they have a companion low density commercial land use category. Then you see medium density residential, that's the orange color here. And you see the companion zoning category RG3, because it's a little bit higher density higher density allowed in that multifamily category. And so this is the map that we all look at in the Department of City Planning, Office of Zoning and Development each and every day when an application is submitted to our office that wants to be considered for rezoning or for a land use change. This is the map in the document that we use. So now I wanted this class to be interactive. So I'm going to ask you all a series of questions, and in those questions I would encourage everyone to take the opportunity to pull up the zoning code, which is here, MuniCode Atlanta, municode.com, or if you can go to it directly, I can take you through it right now so you all can find it. So if you go to your search engine and type in municode.com, this screen will come up. You go here to the code library, and then to Georgia, and then to Atlanta. And the zoning code is here, part 3. Part 16 zoning.
Hey, Kieta, really quick. We're still
Uh-huh.
seeing the slide. We're not seeing your search engine.
Uh-oh, sorry. Oh, that's why you have to stop share. Guess we're not having, no one's having a good technology night today. Okay, so here we go. Let me go back. This is also good if you have information, someone comes to your neighborhood and they want, or they're asking for some information, you want to be able to pull up the category and the district information for yourself. So this is the unicode.com. You put that in your search engine. You go here to the code library and then to Georgia, Atlanta. And then on the side here, part 3 is the code of ordinances for land development. And part 16 is zoning. Okay. Also, can you see my screen still, Tony?
Yes.
Yes, yes, we can.
Okay. Okay. All right. So everyone see the screen? Okay, let me go back to the presentation and bring up the first activity. And so what we'll do is I'll pose the question. A property is zoned R4, single family residential. An applicant is requesting to change the zoning to MRMU and construct 12 units. The land use is single family. So can anyone tell me what has to happen for this application to, what would a planner do to consider this application for a rezone? No one want to give you a starter? Somebody want to just
I'll try.
take a stab at it?
Yes.
Go
I
ahead,
can-
Ms. Reynolds.
Okay, from what you just shared with us, we should go to the municode.com
Mhm.
and go to our prospective neighborhood, our NPU, and to see what, okay, the 16, and see what what is already zoned, I guess.
So it's currently zoned
Okay.
R4, okay?
Right.
Mhm. Okay, and so these are the permitted uses: single family detached dwellings, structures for MARTA, and public schools.
Okay.
Okay, and so the applicant wants to rezone this particular property to MRMU.
Okay.
You want to go to the MRMU code, Ms. Reynolds?
I'm sorry.
You want to go to the MRMU code?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, MRMU allows 2 to 3 story multi-unit buildings targeting missing middle housing needs.
Okay.
Okay. Do you need a land use? Does the applicant need a land use change?
Yes, because he's asking for, asking this for to be rezoned, because it would be rezoning from what is original is. So yes.
Okay, so the property would need a land use change to one of 2 categories. So MRMU is allowed from 4 units to 12 units. From 4 to 8 units is consistent with low density residential. And then from 9 to 12 units is consistent with medium density residential. But there is a caveat.
Okay.
property is more than 300 feet from a major corridor, that is more than 300 feet away from Donnelly Hollowell, from Joseph E. Lowry, from Northside Drive, from Peachtree Street, from Moreland, from Memorial, a major corridor. If it's more than 300 feet from a major corridor, then we say that it is only appropriate for that to be between 4 and 8 units and be consistent with low density residential. If it's closer to 300 feet, maybe it's only 150 feet from the major corridor, then that's appropriate for 9 to 12 units and medium density residential.
Right, because it should be in what, you know, in the density that you already have within your NPU, I believe also. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am. So
Okay.
the way that the city is pretty much laid out, the closer you are to a major corridor, the higher the
Higher
intensity.
the density, right.
The further away it is, the lower the intensity.
Correct,
Okay,
correct.
so this applicant has asked for 12 units. What would be your recommendation?
If it's close to okay, if it's close, if you're asking for 12 units, so it would need to be closer to one of the major corridors because, you know, where it's less residential. I
Yes,
believe.
ma'am.
Okay. Because I know with us, you know, with James Jackson Parkway, this is where we would at least go up to, I believe it's 5 or 6 stories. It would be higher because it is a major thoroughfare and as well on Donnelly Hollowell also.
So if he was closer to James Jackson or Donnelly Hollowell, you would recommend approval for the rezoning and for the land use change to 12 units.
Yes.
But if he was on, I don't know, Maldo or,
that's residential, so no.
okay, all right.
That would be at least 3, you know, 3 floors in height. Because
Okay.
you wouldn't want to
Does
go
anybody
out you wouldn't want to go out of the character of you know, the residential. So
Okay.
the minimum there would be at least 3 stories.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions about what I just took Ms. Reynolds through?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm just trying to make sure I get it. If it's on Memorial Drive and I wanted to build 12 townhomes, I can apply for that because I'm within 300 feet or within 150 feet. And then that would be medium density. And then I can go up 4 stories, or is that a different zoning type?
That's a different zoning type. So the category specifically in this question is only MRMU. And that is the way that we proposed it to the community, and it was accepted by the community and adopted by City Council, is that an MRMU building must look like a single family structure. So that's why it's allowed to be 2 to 3 stories, but it is required to have only one main entrance, like a house. So you would enter it like an old mansion that was converted to apartment. You would enter through one door, and when you enter, you can go into the separate apartment units. MRMU, this specific category in this question, is only allowed between 4 units and 12 units. So minimum 4, maximum 12. And then the determination is based upon whether or not you're asking for between 4 and 8 units or 9 and 12 units. If you're asking for 9 to 12 units, that's appropriate closer to Memorial Drive. Because on Memorial Drive, as you know, it is more, it's mixed use, it's high intensity. Those kinds of things are appropriate closer to Memorial Drive. But as you go east into the neighborhood, then the more appropriate category would be 4 to 8 units, low density residential, MRMU. Ms. Carter, is that clear?
Yes, ma'am, got it.
Okay, anybody else? Anybody else got a question? Okay, we'll go on to the next one. A property is zoned R4 single family residential and is adjacent to other properties zoned R4. The land use is single family residential. The applicant proposes a rezoning to MRC3 and a land use amendment to mixed use to construct a development with 3 townhomes and a non-residential space. The property is on a major corridor. Does anybody want to try to make a recommendation on that activity? Come on now. Somebody. Ms. Nichols? Yes, ma'am. I see you trying not to act like you don't, you want to hold your head down. I saw you in class. Come on, Ms. Nichols, unmute your phone. Come on.
You're gonna have to read that to me again now.
Certainly. A property is zoned R4 single family residential and is adjacent to other properties zoned R4. The land use is single family residential. The applicant proposes a rezoning to MRC3 and a land use amendment to mixed use to construct a development that has 3 townhomes and a non-residential space. The property is located on a major corridor.
So are you asking me if that's allowable? I would think so if it's on a major corridor.
It is allowable, yes. Mhm.
But would the community, you asked me, not in my community, but if it's on a major corridor and they want to make a change, they're going to have to file an application to change the zoning. And so, and it would have to go through the regular process to the neighborhood, the MDU and everything else. So I think it has a lot to do too with the community and what they agree to, what they can come to an agreement with the applicant as far as their concerns are, but it's allowable.
So let's talk about intensity. So, and I want you all to know that these are all actual cases that are recent or have come through our office in the last couple of months. So this property is on a major corridor. It is adjacent to single family residential. When we spoke with the applicant, we suggested a different zoning category that would accomplish the same thing. So remember I told you that we have some mixed use categories. So what the category we suggested to them was residential limited commercial. Residential limited commercial allows residential and commercial together. It's just a step below C1, but just a step above a strictly residential category. One, because where this particular piece of property is located, on the opposite side of it, or to the western portion of it, the property is all commercial. And on the other side, the property is all residential. So we split hairs. We said, okay, we can see that this property probably will not be a fully residential property because of the corridor that it's on and the place where it is on the corridor. So we suggested RLC. The intensity of the FAR or the bulkiness of the building requirements is less. We also asked them to amend their land use category to low density commercial because mixed use would carry a higher intensity. But RLC still has the requirements for buffers. There's a 20-foot buffer between the property line of the residential property and this commercial property. We've also made some suggestions about how the parking should be laid out, and also making some recommendations on limiting the time of the non-residential property on site. And so I wanted you all to, I pulled this out because one, that is something that communities grapple with all the time. The the community can always suggest a different category, one that is that accomplishes the same thing that the applicant wants, but is more in line with the policy initiatives that you all have set forth in your NPU policies, as well as your future land use map that you have had adopted in the comprehensive development plan, and meets the policies of how you want your neighborhood to develop. Are there questions? No, but I cannot be that. I cannot be. There has to be some question.
Kenyatta,
Yes, ma'am.
this is me again. But here again is it the guideline would be your policies, that you have for your area. And this is out of character, then I feel like this is when, we always had someone that really knew zoning. So I'm just, because I relied on them. And so, as well as you. So let's say they would come to my NPU, and first of all, we wanted to be lined up with the policies that we already have in place. And then if it's not, then that is when I would reach out to you to seek your advice. Now that's me. I can't speak for no one else, but that is what I would do.
Okay, that's fair enough. Anybody else? Does anybody else think that they would feel confident enough in asking a developer to choose a different category?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me just add this too, in case some of the people might need to know, when you're talking about policies, you're talking about the comprehensive development plan.
Yes,
what's in
ma'am.
the policies. So you need to know what's in your plan. It's important that you know what's in your plan.
And if you should know what's in your comprehensive development plan. If you've done any LCI studies, any master planning, or any types of documents that are governing how you all want your neighborhood to evolve, then those are also considered if they're adopted into the comprehensive development plan when we are considering applications. Ms. Harris, NPUH just had their master plan adopted. Do you have any questions about this activity that we just went through?
I'm on here learning. Thank you very much.
Okay, all right then.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How do you handle it if your NPU seems like they don't want to evolve? Like you're on the monthly meetings and you're hearing certain people say, we don't want to be a mega Eastlake, we don't want to be a mega Kirkwood, but I mean, things are evolving around us and in other neighborhoods. So is it solely based on whether the neighborhood agrees with your zoning request or not, or is it still an opportunity if it meets all other requirements that you could possibly get it approved?
So this is where a lot of NPUs become disgruntled with staff. So when an application is making its way through the NPU system, there's also an assigned planner who is reviewing the application for its compliance with the comprehensive development plan or any other plans that have been adopted, as well as the zoning regulations. Many times there are communities that may not want to evolve or disagree with an application. The recommendation from the NPU or even from the NPU and the neighborhood can be a recommendation for denial. The staff has their own independent recommendation as well. And the staff report is issued and we post that staff report on the website on the day of the hearing. The zoning review board, which hears applications for rezoning and special use permit, have the application, the staff report, and any documents that the neighborhood has provided to city staff to provide to them. And they use all those documents as well as any commentary to provide a recommendation from them on the application. Those are all recommendations. None of them are binding. The only thing that is binding is the action that city council takes. So I've seen it many times where there's been a split decision. The neighborhood association and the MPU have recommended denial. Staff has recommended approval. ZRB has recommended denial. And then city council recommends approval. So city council is the determining factor.
Okay, thank you.
A property is zoned R4, single family residential, and is adjacent to other properties zoned R4. The applicant is requesting to rezone the property to R4B to subdivide and construct 4 single family houses.
Yeah, I have a quick question. This is Chad.
Mhm.
So with these scenarios, and I apologize for I'm a little lost. Should I be able to go in Unicode and see if this is allowed? I mean, if it's got neighborhood support, anything should go. I mean, right?
Not necessarily.
Okay.
So in this question that I just used, you can go to Municode and you can look at the difference between R4 and R4B.
Okay. I can expand both sections.
So yes, you can expand both sections and you can look at the differences. There are differences in lot size. There are differences in FAR allowances, width of the lot. All those things are different between R4 and R4B. R4B is a very small lot. R4 is a 9,000 square foot lot.
Okay.
And I put this question in to start this discussion, Chad, because this has come up quite a bit in older neighborhoods on the east side. R4 and R4B are both single family residential districts. R4B, however, is a smaller lot. It's a 2,800 square foot lot. R4 is a 9,000 square foot lot. And that's where we start to get into discussions about neighborhood character. Is the character of this neighborhood 9,000 square feet or an average of 9,000 square feet? Or maybe there's some 7,500 or 5,500 or whatever. But are there really those that are that small at 2,800 square feet? So while they're both single family residential, is the character of that neighborhood that small? And if the other thing that from a staff perspective that we're thinking about when we think about neighborhood character, if we start down this road, how far down this road do we go? Do we start saying, oh, okay, every house on this street is now eligible to be subdivided and now can become R4B lots?
You're talking about precedent, I guess, right?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. Good point. So like, yeah, I guess you look at a given neighborhood and area and see like, okay, maybe there's other lots in there. There's a plenty of non-conforming that they're smaller, but if not, then you'd want to protect the character. And going from 9,000 to, you said 2,500?
2,800.
2,800. I guess that's a large enough deviation where that could really stand out and serve as a precedent and at least a single point of neighborhood character erosion. Okay, thank you.
Did I answer your question?
Yeah. So like in this given scenario, I guess we're looking for a better recommendation, or this is something that we don't expect the neighborhood support or the city to approve.
Well, surprisingly, this has been a mixed bag. I think, and I don't know if people are thinking, well, it's still a single family detached house, so I'm okay with it. And really hadn't gone the extra step to think, well, okay, if I allow these in my neighborhood, what's going to continue to happen in my neighborhood? Am I going to see more applications like this? And it may be okay. It may be on certain streets in the neighborhood that 2,800 square foot lots is more than appropriate because those lots were built some time ago, and that is the character of that particular street. And it's not a whole neighborhood wide thing, but it requires that when the applicant comes in, that the evaluation is made, and that the determination is, okay, on this particular street it's okay, but it's not okay on these street because we're trying to maintain a particular characteristic and a feel in this neighborhood.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody else? Please discuss further on the comprehensive development plan, when, who develops, how often updated, last time updated, and where can I find the CDP for my neighborhood? This is from C. Jackson. So the comprehensive development plan is a mandated plan from the Department of Community Affairs of the state of Georgia. It requires that municipalities that are over 100,000 people have a comprehensive development plan, 1, and 2, it is updated every 5 years. We are currently in the midst of an update, and so I think the community portion of that will be sometime next month, because we are doing an administrative update because of the COVID and can't get everybody the way we would really do a comprehensive development plan. So we're only going to do an administrative update this year. The comprehensive development plan used to be housed in the Office of Zoning and Development. However, we did a reorg last year, and now the Office of Design is responsible for the comprehensive development plan. The project manager for this update is Nate Hosell. And if you have not been in contact with him or don't know his name or need information from him, his name should be familiar to all the MPU chairs and to the MPU zoning contacts, because there has been some reach out to them for some documents associated with the comprehensive development plan and some request of information from them. Another question is, what defines a major corridor? And so we have this pretty snazzy map in our that we use in the city, and it labels all types of streets. Major corridors are ones that all the streets empty out into. And so those would be the Peachtree, the Memorials, the Morelands, the Donnelly Hollowells, the Cascades, Campbelltons. Those are all major corridors. Those are all the spines of the city that all of the streets dump into and carries the heavy traffic. Okay, is there anything else before I go on to the next activity? Okay, a property is zoned I-1 light industrial and the land use is industrial. The current industrial owner is moving. The applicant is proposing to rezone to MRC3 and develop 800 apartments and non-residential and 2,000 parking spaces. Absolutely, Mr. Murray, I certainly will.
Thank you.
Okay, who wants to take a stab at it? Nobody? This class is supposed to be about shaping your neighborhood. I thought these activities would be great.
Hey, this Alan. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, no, I'm excited for sure. I'm just, I guess I'm not clear on the foundation of zoning, right? And I guess I'm just trying to get a high level because I'm on your site and I see the section where you say R4 or MRC and et cetera. But once we go there, what's the next step? Do we look at the parking requirements? Do we go back to the documentation? I guess I'm kind of confused once we get to that document, how deep in detail you have to be. So I guess I just probably need a little more time just to understand. It's my first time to the site. So just understanding how to get to that information quickly, write it out, and if it makes sense to me. So that's just my struggle right now. I'm following with you as much as possible, but yeah, this is definitely new to me. I'm trying to just follow you as much as possible. So I apologize.
Okay, Mr. Anderson, are you on the Unicode site now?
Yeah, I'm there. I'm there.
Okay, so for this question that we have before us now, the applicant is proposing to rezone from I-1 light industrial or all industrial uses to MRC3, which is mixed use residential. So if you were one of my, if I was a resident and I didn't understand what either category was, I would go to the site and I would do what you just said. I would read all the information from beginning with the stated intent of the district all the way down to the bottom. Usually parking is the very last category. To familiarize myself with what the district is that they currently have, and then also go to the district that they're proposing and do the same thing. With MRC3 or MRC, there are levels to it. So there's MRC 1, 2, and 3. So there is statement of intent information and then just like general regulations. And then at the very bottom, it is broken up into specific regulations for MRC 1, MRC 2, MRC 3. And so I'm just going to assume that's what the neighborhood has done. And I'll just give you a little bit of information. A light industrial, for this particular question, light industrial category, this is an actual case that we had last year. This was a location where there was an industrial provider, a pharmaceutical company that had operated in this portion of the city in an industrial area for years. They were also immediately adjacent to another industrial area that was a butcher. And so the butcher was moving and the pharmaceutical company was moving. One was moving to Douglas County, one was moving to Cobb County. So this property is now vacant. It is also on a major corridor, and major corridor is on one side and a residential neighborhood is on the other. Okay, that's the framework. So what they did propose is multifamily residential, non-residential to include hotel, office, and a few retail shops. And they're also doing 2,000 parking spaces. And so what I'm asking you all with that information, what I'm asking you all as the neighborhood perspective or from staff's perspective, is this something that you would want in your neighborhood? Why or why not?
I would want it in my neighborhood because it's helping to increase the density.
Okay, density is on the floor. Anybody else?
I might like going away from the industrial.
The industrial is going away. Okay, anybody else?
Agree. I would like to, it could be in my neighborhood because otherwise it's just going to be vacant property there. So if it can be changed to MRC3, which is a mixed use, you could have those apartments and some retail components also. So I would be in agree with that instead of just being vacant property. Because first of all, it was light industrial instead of, and you probably won't have, the soil could not be contaminated if it was, what is that, C2, which would be a more heavy industrial area.
I2.
I2, right.
Okay, so we got
I would like to say something. How many units did you say there were?
800.
So I would not like that because I don't know, 800 units, that's a lot of people. And I don't know whether or not that's going to create a lot of traffic in my area and make it unbearable for me to get home. I don't know.
I think we lost Miss Francis. Miss Francis? Okay, on the table, so Miss Francis says she wouldn't like it because it may increase traffic and she didn't know how that is going to impact her. Ms. Carter said she would like it because it's going to increase density. Ms. Reynolds said it would reactivate perhaps a property that could go vacant. And Mr. Murray said that he also liked it. Anybody else with a differing opinion?
Hi, I'll go. I haven't spoke yet. I'm Asha. Nice to meet you. Great job. I love this interactive presentation. I am conflicted. There's something like, I'm not gonna say it's like that many 800 in my neighborhood, but I think about what Fallon said in terms of, you know, traffic and the flow, but I also understand why we need, you know, to be able to have more housing for more people. So I understand the density issue in affordable housing and all of that. So I'm conflicted, but I think if it was like maybe affordable housing or workforce housing or something behind it, I would be completely okay with it.
This particular project does not have any workforce housing, does not have any affordable housing, and is not in an area that mandates it.
Yeah.
Does that change
Market rent?
anybody's
It
I'm
does,
sorry,
depending on the area. Yeah, I said market rent, huh? It does depending on the area. I guess like if it's something like similar to that Bankhead project that I heard about, then no, I would not like that at all, probably. But if it was like reasonable, then I guess I wouldn't mind.
Okay,
But
anybody
this is
else?
light industrial, right? If it's light industrial, that means that it's well, I'm asking if it's light industrial, does that mean that there's not a lot of residential in that area? Like this would be creating the residential in that area?
No, ma'am. This particular part of the city has a lot of residential. The area, the property is historic industrial in the city. And it is on a major truck route and close to an existing rail car pickup kind of thing.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, this is Virgil Penny. How's everybody? And
How you doing?
you are
Hi,
doing a great.
Virgil.
Great. This is so important, and I'm learning so much. But I guess maybe my statement would be, what's the overall characteristic of the other part of that location? So I'm just only viewing it through the lens of the application, not through the lens of the overall community. So you're adding 800 units to a particular section where maybe there's 5 or 6 other 800 units coming within so many blocks or miles away. So how do we manage that? Is that where our neighborhood
That is
plans
also
come in?
important. That's also important. Yes, that's also important that when you are evaluating applications, you are considering what, one, is already there, or two, what has been planned in the area. You're correct, Virgil. That's absolutely correct. Anybody else got anything before I tell you what staff recommendation was?
I really want to know the recommendation now.
So staff's recommendation was denial. And I can tell you that staff's recommendation was denial based on several factors. One, the city has a policy that was set out in our 2016 comprehensive development plan to maintain industrial property in our city. One, because we are a former industrial city, and there are a number of industrial sites that have gone away And when they go away, we lose jobs. And if we lose jobs in the city, it becomes unaffordable for people to live and work in the city. That's one. Two, the applicant, I did leave out some details, but the applicant was requesting parking spaces in excess of the parking requirement that is associated with the MRC3 category. They were actually proposing approximately, or did propose approximately 2,000 parking spaces over the development of this project. And this happens to be on Marietta Boulevard, I think it is at that point. And the neighborhood was very passionate about their recommendation to rezone the property and to change the land use, because it will also require a land use change. We were not upset about that, about the different opinion. We accept that. That is a course of our work. But from staff's perspective, we're responsible for upholding the policies in the CDP, as well as making recommendations that are consistent with zoning and land use policy as it is set out. NPU did recommend approval. Zoning Review Board also recommended approval, and then City Council adopted it. And so it is set in stone. That property will come there, but we're always cognizant of issues that arise after an application has been approved by City Council, and then the community has to deal with all of the factors that are associated with the new development. And I can think of so many new developments that we thought were really well planned out, but in action, as more and more people move to a place and there's less access to transit, they become burdensome on the existing community. So, anybody have any questions on that?
This is not necessarily related, but do you know why the actual community wanted to have that there? Was it just because they didn't want it to be industrial?
The community said that the industrial provider had been moving over several years, and the buildings were not being used, and they would rather see something developed there instead of the industrial. There was also a strong contingent in the neighborhood that said industrial was no longer appropriate at that location.
Wow, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Kieta, this is Chad. So yeah, it did come to mind about that industrial thing. I don't know if it was my neighborhood. It sounds close by, but some people had the opinion that just industrial wasn't like the direction. And it doesn't seem like the future of industry or what have you. But no, I get the thing about the jobs. I mean, I remember that the city was trying to maintain some of those. So it comes to mind.
Okay, anybody else got anything? Okay. I should have did more activities. You guys are really getting these. I do have a lot in my coffers though. I'm sure I can come up with some more. So a property is zoned MRC.
Well, I'm sorry. This is Virgil again. I don't mean to interrupt your next example, but can you, I guess, dive more so
So far for that.
in order to render the decision?
So,
sorry, say that one more time, Virgil.
I said that, can you go into more in-depth detail as far as the planner and the application process that they have to? What checklists do they review besides just the going to the comprehensive development plan? Is there a format that you guys follow? What is it that you're looking for? What are your underwriting criteria?
So as a part of the staff report under conclusions, there are concluding factors that we must make conclusions on that are set out. Are there mandates for an application? Let me see if I can find that for you. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, activity 5.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the web. Let me do this and do this. Okay, now can you all see my screen?
Not
Not
yet.
yet.
Oh yeah, there it is. City of
Yeah.
Atlanta website.
So each staff report starts out with findings of fact. That is the facts about the project, what size it is, physical features, its current land use, designation, surrounding land uses, and transportation system. That's all findings of the staff report out. Then there's a proposal that lists what the request is from the actual applicant. And then there are conclusions. All these standards 1 through 8 have to be met in order to get a recommendation of approval from the staff perspective. And we're using the comprehensive development plan, any adopted plans, any office policies, all those documents are used to fill out the questions that you see here in front of you. Is it compatible with the comprehensive development plan? That's really a yes or no. Yes, it is, or no, it's not, and a land use amendment is going to be required. Availability of and effective public facilities and services. Is it somewhere that has current sewer capacity and water capacity and electricity? And not only do the applications go out to you in the neighborhood association and the MPU, we also send it out to ATL DOT, to Watershed, and they also to the Arborist Division, and they also give us information on an application when it's being reviewed and going through the legislative process. And so if someone comes back and says there's not going to be any water service or not going to be any sewer service, then that is likely a determinant that you're not going to be able to get a recommendation of approval, because we're not going to be able to provide you with public access to facilities. Then we talk about the availability of other land for the proposed use. These are really policy documents that come out of the CDP. And you'll see information about character areas in this. You'll see information about any plans in these 2, 3, and 4. What are the effects on the neighborhood? We use the properties that are on the Beltline. We use that quite a bit to talk about, in this particular area, the Beltline Master Plan says that 1 to 4 stories is appropriate. And if it's not, if the applicant is asking for 5 to 6 stories, that denial, because the master plan says 1 to 4 stories and you're asking for something that it's not consistent with. Mr. Penny, am I answering your question?
Yes, you are.
Okay.
Yes. The reason why I'm saying that is because it gives me, I guess, a different perspective as to what the city is viewing, as opposed to what the community wants and their desires.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we can that way, because in your previous example, some said that I love this 800 unit coming, and then others said, oh, I'm not real sure. Where I was in the middle of the fence too, because another 1,000 units is coming 2 or 3 blocks away. It may not be in my MPU. It may be right on the tip of my corner on the MPU. Is that something that the city also evaluates as well?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
And at that point, if your project is within 300 feet of an adjacent MPU, then that adjacent MPU gets review and comment. And whatever comments that they send to us, we also take those into in consideration of our evaluation of the application.
Okay.
Another thing I want to say, Virgil, is even though people disagree, it's okay to disagree. But maybe I don't want you to do 1,000 units. Maybe can you bring it down to 800? Maybe I might support you at that point. And then if you say I can't do 1,000 and that's number I'm stuck on with it, I'm just not going to support you. And that's just, that comes out in the wash, and you just, whatever you've heard, your voice has been heard. but the recommendation may go a different way.
Are those called zoning conditions?
They can turn into zoning conditions, but I was trying to answer Virgil's question when he said that some people agreed and some people didn't. If you never get to a consensus, then maybe the recommendation out of the neighborhood or the MPU is denial. If you can get to a consensus, maybe that does turn into a condition. Okay, so the neighborhood says we recommend approval on this particular project, but we don't want to see 1,000 units. We want to see 800. So the condition is recommendation of approval conditioned upon the number of units.
A number of units that would, because MRC 3 is the most density, right?
Yes.
Okay.
In the entire city.
Okay. I got you. All right. Thank you.
So you could your condition could either be in number of units or it can be in FAR. So if the FAR in MRC 3, FAR is 7.25, and you say, oh, that's just too much. We want it to be conditioned to 5.5. Virgil, you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay. So Virgil, you want to take this question that I had up? Virgil?
Yes, ma'am.
You want to take this question I got up on the screen?
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, we can work through it together. I'm sorry, I'm on my cell phone and I'm not on the perfect Wi-Fi, so that's why I'm a little lag time. But let's look at your example.
Okay. A property is zoned MRC 2C, mixed residential commercial conditional. The conditions prohibit automotive uses. The developer has been hosting events in the neighborhood for children and promised to make a donation to the neighborhood association. The developer wants to remove conditions to develop a service station.
Okay, so you're saying, no, this should not be an approved application.
Why not? He's been good to the neighborhood.
I understand that, but you're saying automobile uses are prohibited in this particular zone. So that's not permissible at all. So I wouldn't even ask for that.
But I just moved here, Virgil, and I like service stations. So I don't understand why he can't have it.
How close?
Well, that's where zoning comes in. You know what I'm saying? And yeah, and there are others, they're probably, well, let's just say this. It depends on the application, because we're talking about a service station, right? There could be 21st century service stations, right? Maybe this particular definition of a service station was more 20th century or more 19th century service station. Maybe it's one pump, maybe it's 2 pumps. I don't know. Maybe it has a little buffer or something. But the current zoning prohibits that. So I would recommend denial.
Okay, Chad?
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, the children are in there involved as well. So I mean, the current zoning already prohibits the automotive uses, and I would think that would be synonymous with a service station. Okay,
it is.
And they're having events for children. So how close? I mean, there's environmental and health concerns when it comes to a gas station or a service station. So how close are those?
So I'm the developer, and I know that I want to remove these conditions because I want to put this gas station, this service station in. And so I have been coming to the MPU meetings, and I heard you all say that you needed to build a playground, and I donated the money. I donated the money and gave you the money for the playground. The playground is now up and running. Okay. And then you all came back and were talking to the MPU, and you said, oh, we need uniforms for the kids. And I donated the money. Okay, I've been hanging around in the MPU for a while. Then I come and I bring this application and I say, oh yeah, so I'm a developer, and you all know I'm a developer, and I want to remove the conditions on this particular piece of property to build my service station. You know me. You know me, so you're gonna support me, right?
No,
No, I don't know you.
Yeah.
no, no.
But I feel like some people might have supported this. I feel like you're describing like a common thing, but I feel like the person who wants to make a difference would have asked those people what they needed in that community, and that would have been the priority to me.
Yeah, I was going to
This is
say
really cool.
why do you feel, what studies have you done or research is done to that warrants this? Like, why do you feel that this is needed? And what evidence? And then I like the gentleman's position about, was this written with the view or definition of a service station, quote unquote, from an earlier time period, and just more information about what this quote unquote service station is and what it looks like and how far exactly it is from children and that kind of stuff.
And also, I see this, he had ulterior motives in the first place because he knew what he wanted. And, then he worked with the community for the children and the association, knowing the condition was there. But because of what I've done, I expect you to this would be a favor because y'all know what I've done for you. But it's still no.
So I can tell you that this application was denied. ZRB didn't buy it, staff didn't buy it. Unfortunately, the MPU did buy it. The MPU did recommend approval, but staff and ZRB recommended denial, and the conditions were not removed.
Wow.
So those little sneaky things you have to watch out in your neighborhood, because everybody that comes to your neighborhood in your MPU may say that they are for the MPU in the neighborhood, and they actually may not be. They might just be trying to grease the wheels. And that is also something that affects your neighborhood and how it is built out. And that's why you have to stay on the lookout for those kinds of things. There was actually an issue recently on a piece of property that had just gone through a process, and they came up with this crazy project that they wanted to do. And we were like, no, you can't do that. That's not what you're approved for. You're approved for, something else. So no, we're not doing that.
Kenyatta, this is Shirley. May I just say something? I think every neighborhood needs to be aware and cautious when people come into your neighborhood, especially certain kinds of neighborhoods, and start offering you all kinds of stuff. You need to know that eventually they're going to want something in return. They get their service station, then they're going to want their liquor license, a bunch of stuff. So neighborhoods have to be very, very careful about what they accept from these people and what they're offering when they come in there.
Agreed.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay, let's go to the next one. A land use policy. Wow. I didn't check that. A land use policy document was recently adopted into the CDP. The zoning regulations require single-family residential on an existing single-family lot. The developer says that he lives in the community and he needs to rezone to allow four single-family structures instead of one. Who was that just said,
That was me. I'm looking at this and I'm just seeing, I'm going back to neighborhood character and seeing this is a developer just trying to make more money again.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I'm just taking a stab at it because I want to become
Ms. Carter,
a
is that you
developer,
talking?
and I would say, see, if we're increasing low density and it fits the character of the neighborhood, I would say yes. I guess when I'm thinking through it, I would think that for smaller houses, as long as we define what that lot size should be, and there's other houses in the neighborhood within that, same size or similar, why not?
Okay, anybody else?
Precedent could be another factor again.
Anybody else? Somebody asked the question, was the application filed before the document was added? Should that have a bearing on this application? Anybody?
Would they be grandfathered in?
So the policy document, let's for argument's sake, let's say the application was filed in February and the NPU heard it in February, and the land use document was not adopted into the comprehensive development plan until March, which means the adoption for the land use policy and the zoning review board hearing was in the same time period. So would that policy document matter?
You said same time period, so
Same time period. So if the NPU heard it in February, that means the zoning review board would hear it in March, and city council would adopt it in March, theoretically, depending on the calendar. And they would also adopt the CDP document, the policy document into the CDP in March as well. So they're all kind of running concurrently. So that means the NPU knows about, has been working on this policy document, whatever, and these are all going along at the same process. Should the NPU consider their policy document that has not actually been adopted by city council, what should the NPU do?
yeah, I think it's still be some sort of grace period, right? I mean, since it's currently during that same time period in March. If it was, in, let's say September this year, that'd be a different ballgame because you have time to adapt and adjust. So I think Mr. Jackson stated application file. So I think, yeah, we could work with that. That's a matter that we could, take, offline and figure that out. So because the time period is the same situation. So I think
that is true. But I also can tell you that this is a common occurrence that happens with applications and applicants. It actually what happened when the West Side Land Use Framework Plan was being adopted and the SPI regulations that followed for Vine City and English Avenue. There were a couple of applications that were going through at the same time. And what I suggested to the developer was that they have a conversation with those respective neighborhoods and align their application with what the policy document and the upcoming SPI, what regulations were. And I often do that because the neighborhoods are where people live. And why would you do something totally opposite than what the neighborhood is anticipating? And they're already working on it. So it's already open. And you have the opportunity, if you are, a developer who's really considerate about your development, you have the opportunity to sit down with the neighborhood and really work your plan, and then both parties are happy, in a sense. Okay, anybody else has anything, any other questions associated with that? Because I'm going to have to think of what's.
No, I do. This is Virgil again. Hey, I'm sorry. This is Virgil. I have a question. Okay, so now this application is trying to divide one lot. What type of lot is this? What's the topography of the lot? Is it, I didn't catch what residential classification is. Is it an acre or less than an acre? What
It's
is
less
this?
than an acre. It's an R4 lot, which is 9,000 square feet.
Okay, so now you're taking a 9,000 square foot lot and you're subdividing it, or you're asking for um, a zoning exception for 4 single family dwellings on that particular lot. Is that correct?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay, so but what is the definition to the developer? What is a single family dwelling? Is it a townhouse or is it 4 separate single family units? What are we discussing here?
So that's a very good question, Virgil. So single family can be either attached or detached. Single
Correct.
family detached or single family dwellings that are, not attached to another building. Single family attached are townhomes. And a single family attached townhome can be subdivided along the common wall, which we call zero lot line. And each individual one of those can be owned by an individual owner. So you're absolutely correct. This particular owner could do townhomes and not do single family detached housing.
Okay.
And if he
So
was
that's
doing townhomes, would that change your recommendation?
depends. Because I mean, I understand I'm getting a greater understanding. By the way, I'm in the mortgage business anyway. I'm a mortgage underwriter, but zoning is the one component that I'm starting to understand or get a greater understanding of. But the point I'm trying to make is that I see if you buy one lot, why build one house when you can build 4, right? And why not build 4 single family attached units, which we call townhouses, which is still cheaper than 4 separate buildings, right? And of course, we're not thinking that the value in those 4 units, they are automatically have their comparable. So if the listing price was 500, the other 3 would be within that 500,000 range, right? Because that would be your closest comparable, since none of the neighborhood or most of the neighborhood is not a townhouse, right? You're going to compare the single family attached house to another single family attached house, not detached. So I guess for me, it just depends on what the whole block is doing, the whole community.
Absolutely.
Are those one single family unit lots now being converted into 4 units, which will change the characteristic of the community, as well as it will cause I guess a greater demand on those houses, where the single family detached houses will start to decline. And I mean, then all of a sudden, then you just have, just nothing but row houses, I guess, if you want to call them that.
Right.
So, I mean, so I guess my perspective of zoning is what's going on in the whole neighborhood, not just, my street. What's going on across the next street over? Or is this same developer doing something similar over there? Or is another developer doing that same similar thing that's over there? How many applications of this are we receiving?
Let's say that this developer is this is what he does. He does single family detached all across the city, and he finds these little lots, and he just wants to put up. He does 4-unit developments all over the place, and he just finds property wherever he can in this neighborhood.
Well, that's different. That's different than a coordinated planned effort, right? And most developers are coordinating and planning their effort. If I were a developer, yes, they are. I'm not, because you're not going to base. No, I mean, a developer is coming in looking to make the comparable to their investment, not to what's currently listed. So if it's a new house, they're going to compare it to a new house, or at least newer. updated, renovated, right? It's got to be on the same par. So I'm developer A, you know I'm in the business, you're developer B, we may be competitors, right? But you know if I buy this lot, you buy that lot, that's 8 houses, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're
Mm-hmm.
competing against each other. Maybe I'll get one of your clients, you may get one of mine. I buy 2 lots, that's 8 houses for me. You buy 2 lots, that's 8 houses, that's 16.
So I've got 16 new units in my neighborhood on a major corridor, or maybe one street off of the major corridor. But now I got an application before me, and I'm in the heart of the neighborhood, deep into the interior of the neighborhood, and every single lot is a single family detached lot. But Miss Mary owned 5 houses, and now she's passed away, and her children own these lots, and they are like, okay, I'm gonna get all my bang for my buck. And they bring an application to the MPU in the neighborhood, and they say, we want to do townhomes. What's the recommendation from the neighborhood and MPU?
I recommend denial.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Anybody else want got an opinion?
Yeah.
I guess
Denial.
my conclusion would
Something
be
shaking my head. No.
right. It would have
Blocked.
to be denied based on the fact that I guess it kind of distorts the characteristic of the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm. 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 Okay, let me ask you this question. So you know the Beltline, I guess I don't even know how old the Beltline is now. I just feel old when I think about it. But anyway, the Beltline is however old it is. And they've done Beltline master plans, and they're actually doing the updates of those right now. And density and transit go together. MARTA just announced that they are exploring how the transit can be accomplished on the Beltline. And so now you have a property that happens to be in the interior of the neighborhood, but it is on the Beltline, is in the Beltline overlay, and the developer is seeking to do a higher density. What would your recommendation be?
Depends on the number of units in the development. How many units are we talking about?
So the master plan recommends 5 to 6 stories in this location. And they're going to do 6 stories, and they're going to do 120 units.
What was there before?
Nothing. There was an old, it was an old commercial type building. It was some older uses, but those have been abandoned for a while. And I want to redevelop, or the developer wants to redevelop.
No exceptions for parking.
On the Beltline,
no parking variances.
On the Beltline, there's reduced parking anyway, so the parking requirement is not high. And they talked to the city, and the city said we're not going to entertain a special exception to increase parking.
Is the neighborhood historic?
Neighborhood is not historic.
How's the lot situated? Is it? You said it was in the interior. Is it on a corner?
It is.
Nope. I mean,
it's the property butts up right to the Beltline corridor.
Yeah, because it depends on the appearance. Now, I guess we would be reviewing specs as well during the application process.
You would.
Right?
They would probably have an elevation. They would show you a pretty building, what it's going to look like.
Okay, so then we would have to extrapolate how that looks in this current location with the current houses there now.
But your neighborhood doesn't have any design guidelines. It's not historic. You have no design guidelines.
Oh, really?
So did you say it meets the requirements inside the Beltline?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Well, if it meets the requirements, it's kind of hard to.
Is it?
Well, no, you can still reject it regardless. But if you're looking at inside, at things different, things are different inside the Beltline, you know? So I'm not sure how they would handle that, but I suspect that they would approve it.
Is there anybody in here that's in the class tonight that's from a Beltline neighborhood?
Yeah, this Alvin, I have a property it's not on the Beltline, but off Universal Avenue. So it's a couple blocks away from the Beltline they building right now, Southwest Atlanta. So I guess your question is about how that's set up, or?
No, it's how the community grapples with these kinds of requests when they are meeting the master plan. They're meeting the master plan policies. They're going to do 1 to 6 stories. They're going to do 120 units. It's going to butt up right to the belt line. So it's going to have immediate access from the corridor. So what are the kind of questions that you ask the developer, and what do you all expect from the developer when he or she comes and bring a project like that?
Well, that's a great question, because like I said, I just got the property. Right now is Pittsburgh Yards.
I know the property well.
Yeah, right. So you know that pretty well. And that location I have is R4, the property that I have, which is kind of interesting because I have a duplex, but I have not rented out for so long. So now you have to have a single family.
Right. You've lost your non-conforming status.
Exactly. So I think it's more conversation. So it seemed like a lot of one-offs going on as far as our conversation, which is fine. I mean, that's a city of Atlanta. That's great to have this conversation. But I think as a city in the neighborhood, we got to have, like, let's say everybody on this call, we got to come together and figure out what do we want the city to look like and the neighborhood to look like. And that's a more conversation within the Pittsburgh community, same way at Grant Park. We got to have that kind of conversation versus just these one-off come out and have this conversation. So right now, we just have a conversation about that. And I think that's still new, really, to be honest with you, because we're still trying to figure out how that look like, Pittsburgh Yard. So to be honest with you, I'm still trying to figure that out to have that conversation going forward, how that look. Because right now, like
because I know that the Pittsburgh neighborhood is zoned R4, I believe it is. And the last plan recommends that remains single family residential. And then the portion that is on University Pittsburgh Yards, we rezoned a portion of that, or the city rezoned a portion of that to lighting into iMix. And then the other portion that they aren't developing yet is still I1, I think, maybe. But they pretty much any recommendation or anything to increase the density in the neighborhood core has not gone well. Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct, because you have McDaniel Street, so you have a commercial, residential, all throughout that whole street, right? So town. So right now, to be honest with you, that's something that we are having that conversation about. So that's why, another reason I took this class as well, to figure that out, because they told me I couldn't make it a duplex, and I said, well, it's built as a duplex, So when I got the property, and now I say ADU, accessory dwelling unit, so I can rent it out or Airbnb out that way. So that's possible. ADU is legal, but the duplex part is not legal for it's only for single family.
Right. Unfortunately, you've lost your non-conformity.
Exactly.
And that once that's gone, the only option is to convert the duplex to single family or to go through a rezoning, but the rezoning probably will not pass out of city council.
Since we're on a call right now, I think we could, make a decision.
We cannot make a decision. We cannot make a decision. No, we cannot. Okay. Anybody else have something in their neighborhood right now that they are grappling with and want a little bit of assistance that I could provide to you?
I do have a question, kind of
Yes, ma'am.
piggybacking off of Al. So one of the things that I have been reading about was that the city was trying to find ways to make itself more dense. But then, like you said, a lot of these multifamilies, if they haven't been in use, are losing them, and now they're going single families. So I'm just trying, I guess I don't know if this is like a question that you can answer, but I'm just curious as to how we do that while also, conforming to what the people in the neighborhood want?
I really think I am a proponent that it is a neighborhood decision because every neighborhood is different. Interior neighborhoods or older neighborhoods like the density. They have always had the density, but they also are grappling with where the density now goes because it may just be at a point where has become overwhelming. Because while we have grown in certain areas, we don't have the transportation network here in the city of Atlanta that other major cities have. And if you don't have that, then people are still going to be in cars, and then the traffic's going to be cumbersome, and then people are just going to be, feel like they're boxed in. So I really think that's a neighborhood decision and a discussion that should be had at the neighborhood level. While we know that we need to grow, we individual neighborhood people need to understand how we want to grow. For a very, very long time, the city of Atlanta had a policy of preserving single family neighborhoods. And you can see that in action, especially along Ponce de Leon, along Piedmont, along Monroe, along Peachtree. You see all of the density up on the major artery or the major corridor. And then behind it, maybe 1 or 2 streets later, you see all of the single family homes. And that has been the policy forever. However, there are some corridors that have no density whatsoever. And if we're going to grow, is it appropriate for that density to be on those corridors? Or do we now say that those single family neighborhoods are now open to, or that's where the growth should be? So I think that conversation is in its infancy. And we, of course, it is top of mind as we do the zoning ordinance rewrite. And as we do any other work here in the city from any of our offices.
Thank
I
you.
don't know. I think it's confusing because like many others, you're reading that the city wants to increase density. You have property that you believe could help, increase density, but then it sounds like, well, maybe you can't do it. Even if it is something that could conform to city requirements, you have the neighborhood that may not want it, and a lot of people in the neighborhood just don't want the change. So, before I start spending money for, architects and different things like that, I really wanted to take the class to, get a better understanding of what I could do. But I just walk away feeling like I may be throwing my money down the drain.
You should not walk away feeling, I don't want anybody on the call to walk away feeling like you can't get your project accomplished. I oftentimes, anyone who comes and meets with me, I oftentimes tell them, you can get the project done. It just may not be exactly how you want it. So I don't want you to be discouraged. I want you to be encouraged, and I want you to work with the whatever neighborhood that you are that you own the property in and that you're seeking to do the development. I think if you come to those neighborhoods open and honest about what you want to do and have a real good conversation about how you want to develop, I think you can get it accomplished. I think where developers go wrong is they put themselves on a timetable. So money is on a timetable. So you need to do all of your upfront work with that neighborhood in the NPU prior to spending 1 penny. Because once you start spending money, then you're on that timeline and you're on the wheel and you're pressuring, and the neighborhood feels pressured and you feel pressured. Everybody upset. No, do all your upfront engagement first, then spend your money.
Right. So I'm sorry, y'all. I've been driving the whole time from Texas.
Ooh, that's a long drive. I've done that one time and I don't have to do that no more.
I know I'm 30 minutes from home now, but I'm almost there. So my other question is, now I did read where you have to meet with you can meet with the planners before you the concept, like the concept review.
You can, well, the concept review is required prior to a rezoning. And at the concept review committee, you have actually the arborist, the planners, the fire department, water department, transportation department, and they all give you comments on your project. But even before you go there, you probably want to have a conversation with the neighborhood association about what it is that you're proposing, because they've already done their CDP. They likely have some an LCI or some other policy document. So they already have an opinion about what they want to see on that property. And then here you come and say, I want to do something different. Well, they just need a little bit of explanation about why you want to do something different. And then they may get on board, and they may not, but they may get on board.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay. Anybody else? We got 20 minutes, Sam? 20 minutes. Okay. Questions and answers. Okay. 20 minutes of questions and answers.
So if you want to use the raise your hand option, or because Daniel and I are looking, I guess no one has any questions.
Well, I'll give you back
No.
20 minutes of your night.
Wait, I
have
have
a
a question. Okay, I'll let you go first.
Oh, thanks, Asha. My name is Crystal Edmonds. I have a quick question. I just moved into historic West End, and our property is on Langhorne, like right near the corner of Ralph David Abernathy and Langhorne. And there's a permit. There's a developer that's looking to put up a mixed-use development for senior housing on the corner of Hopkins and Ralph David Abernathy. Right now, this developer is seeking a variance to reduce the transitional yard from 20 feet to 7 feet. And that transitional yard is basically going to butt up to the back of our property, and that's going to be like their parking lot. From what I understand, the community has already, approved this. And of course, as a new member in the community within the last couple of months, I'm like, I don't want that parking lot so close, to my backyard. What would you suggest I do? Do I attend the public hearing? Do I reach out to the community organization?
I know that project will actually. The zoning on that application actually was approved by City Council on yesterday. And they own the two single-family residential, or were single-family residential lots just beyond the property on RDA. The transitional yard requirement is necessary because of its proximity to your single-family lot. That is absolutely correct, and it's usually 20 feet. The issue with this particular property is its narrowness. And so they're asking for that reduction so that they can meet their parking requirement. And I think you want to reach out to the developer or the applicant and ask them what kind of buffering are they going to do adjacent to your lot. Is it going to be heavy landscaping? Is it going to be a fence? Is it like what it is? And ask them to find out what they're considering, because it may be something that you could actually live with.
Okay. Thank you, I appreciate that.
And then if it's not something that you can live with and they're not willing to change it, you can always come and speak at the public hearing for that application. I think it may be May 6th or May 13th. Yeah.
It's on the
So
13th.
you can always come and speak at the public hearing in opposition to it.
Okay, awesome.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Miss or Mr. Jackson, we have not had any indication from Water Sewer that there is no capacity to build projects. As a part of development, they are required to pay impact fees, and those impact fees go to service infrastructure in the city. So we haven't had indication that it's not going to be able to handle it, and we assume that in the future it will continue to be able to handle it. Miss or Mr. Jackson asked the question, with so many development projects underway and planned for the near future, is the city sure the current water sewer infrastructure can handle the added demands? And my response was, we have no indication that that it will not, and each development is required to pay impact fees to ensure that their infrastructure is available. The infrastructure is available to a project. Are there other questions?
Yes. Hi, it's Asha again. So I had a question because I'm interested in getting into the affordable housing area. And one of the things that I've been noticing is like there's a big, well, there's always been a need, but now I'm seeing a lot of big players move into that space. And I guess I was curious to know, with rezoning, does it make the project look, I guess, is it more desirable when you include those stipulations into a, or try to incorporate that in a project, just from like a zoning board committee, neighborhood committee, all of that, if that makes sense?
It's not. There are
Okay.
some communities who feel as though they have enough affordable housing. And there are other communities where market rate development is coming in and they're like, we need to have more affordable housing. So I think it really depends application by application, neighborhood by neighborhood.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Just Alvin, I had a last question for tonight.
Mhm. Alvin, did you have a question?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Well, first of all, thank you again for another great session, for keeping us abreast on the laws and regulation, things of that nature. I think a lot of times we just jump into it, head first, and then it's problems. So thank you for sharing. Uh, what other trainings that you guys have provided? Maybe Sam could answer that, or yourself. And also, is it more classes for the zoning or build, pulling permits, things of that nature? I'm just trying to get some more ideas, some more training, help me out as well going forward. So
There will be a zoning fundamentals 3 course that will be offered May or June, I can't remember. But the NPU University offers a lot of different classes that I encourage you to take. There's one that Invest Atlanta does, which is I'm trying to get the time to take it because I need to understand. I have some understanding about how investors look at different neighborhoods, that I want to be able to engage them more because I live in the city, born and raised here in the city, and I live off of Campbellton Road. And I have wanted Campbellton Road to look way different for so long, but we don't get the investment that I think we should. So there's classes like that that you meet with Invest Atlanta and kind of what the people are looking for. I think Mr. Pace, who's Greg Pace, who's the director of the Office of Buildings, he's offered a class before with the Office of Buildings. There were classes for city design housing. There's a lot of classes that the NPU University offers. And I would encourage you to look up the course catalog and take them all. Take them all.
thank you.
I have just a statement, not a question. You mentioned about the talking to the developers, and I just wanted to say you should check out I don't know if you've heard of Council for Quality Growth.
Mhm.
But I'm in there, and Clayton County, I remember this councilwoman, she did a really good job because they're always looking for people from the city to present. And she did a really good job of explaining what she wanted, what that need was, how she wanted to partner with developers, and they were all listening. So that was just,
thank you so much. Thank you.
yeah.
Kenyatta, I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
With all of the, thank you very much for this class. This has been great. I know we have a lot of interaction, but I've learned a lot tonight. But I've got a question. With all of the construction that's going on in anticipation of the increase in population in the next 5-10 years, what does the city look like now in terms of vacancies for all of the apartments that we built? And is there any conversation about the future if we build all these, we have all, we build all these units and we have all this density and we don't meet that population growth in 10 years. And we end up with all of these empty, vacant units, houses, apartments. So are there any plans? What's a conversation about the future?
Not in my wheelhouse. I don't know it. I don't know if that's housing that's tracking that, but I will reach out to Joshua and find out if he's tracking that and has any idea about how much vacancy we currently have and what we're going to do if we reach a certain level. I'm willing to reach out to Joshua and ask that question for you, Ms. Nichols.
Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, so you get 10 minutes of your life back. I would encourage you to do zoning fundamentals 3, because that class will absolutely be interactive. I will divide the class up into neighborhood, NPU, ZRB, and city council. So everybody gets a role. You'll you'll get an application. I have to think about what kind of application to send out through Sam beforehand. And you guys will be on the hot seat. So I encourage you to take zoning fundamentals 3. I enjoyed myself tonight. Thank you all so much. And you have a very, very good evening.
Kieta, real quick.
Thank you.
Will we automatically get an invite for zoning fundamentals 3?
I'll turn it over to the NPU team.
Thank you. We appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I enjoyed the class.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good evening.
She went out before I could tell them about the word. Well, for those who are still left, we have some more. We have 2 courses. I'm going to share my screen showing you all the courses we have upcoming, and we encourage you all to participate in them. We have WB 1003.03, the role of a chairperson or presiding officer. It's actually our parliamentary procedures part 3. So it's actually completely different from our previous courses. And also every person that participates in this course will receive the new, I believe, 7th version of condensed versions of Robert's Rules of Order. And then the Zoning Fundamentals Lab, which she told you about, which is scheduled for Tuesday, May 18th. And then our Works Development course for Thursday, May 27th. We encourage you all to spread to anyone in your community that you feel needs or will benefit from these courses. So again, thank you all so much, and we'll see you next time around.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good night.